Okay, let's finish this stupid book. The 98th Day. For the first 97 days after Hans Hubermann's return in April 1943, everything was fine. Alright, so we're going, this is, the first part of part 10 was kind of a flash forward. And so now we're again back to the original timeline, no? Back to the story. On many occasions, he was pensive about the thought of his son fighting in Stalingrad, but he hoped that some of his luck was in the boy's blood. On his third night at home, he played the accordion in the kitchen. A promise was a promise. There was music, soup, and jokes, and the laughter of a 14-year-old girl. Somen's mama warned her, "Stop laughing so loud. His jokes aren't that funny, and they're filthy, too." After a week, Hans resumed his service, traveling into the city to one of the army offices. He said that there was a good supply of cigarettes and food there, and sometimes he was able to bring home some cookies or extra jam. It was like the good old days, a minor air raid in May, a Heil Hitler here or there, and everything was fine. Until the 98th day. A small statement by an old woman. On Munich Street, she said, "I wish they wouldn't bring them through. These wretched Jews, they're rotten luck. They're a bad sign. Every time I see them, I know we'll be ruined." It was the same old lady who announced the Jews the first time Liesel saw them. On ground level, her face was a prune, her eyes were the dark blue of a vein, and her prediction was accurate. In the heart of summer, Malking was delivered a sign of things to come. It moved into sight like it always did, first the bobbing head of a soldier, and the guns poking at the air above him. Then the ragged chain of clinking Jews. The only difference this time was that they were brought from the opposite direction. They were taken through to the neighboring town of Nebling to scrub the streets and do the cleanup work that the army refused to do. Late in the day, they were marched back to camp, slow and tired and defeated. Again, Liesel searched for Max Vandenberg, thinking that he could easily have ended up in Dachau without being marched through Malking. He was not there, not on this occasion. Just give it time, though, for on a warm afternoon in August, Max would most certainly be marched through town with the rest of them. Unlike the others, however, he would not watch the road. He would not look randomly into the fierce German grandstand. A fact regarding Max Vandenberg, he would search the faces on Munich Street for a book-thieving girl. On this occasion in July, on what Lisa later calculated as the 98th day of her papa's return, she stood and studied the moving pile of mournful Jews, looking for Max. If nothing else, it alleviated the pain of simply watching. That's a horrible thought, she would write in her Himmel Street basement, but she knew it to be true. The pain of watching them. What about their pain? The pain of stumbling shoes and torment and the closing gates of the camp. They came through twice in 10 days, and soon after, the anonymous prune-faced woman on Munich Street was proven absolutely correct. Suffering had most definitely come, and if they could blame the Jews as a warning or prologue, they should have blamed the Fuhrer in his quest for Russia as the actual cause. For when Himmel Street awoke later in July, a returned soldier was discovered to be dead. He was hanging from one of the rafters in a laundry up near Frau Diller's. Another human pendulum, another clock, stopped. The careless owner had left the door open, so one of the someone in Himmel Street committed suicide. July 24, 6:03 a.m. The laundry was warm, the rafters were firm, and Michael Holtzapfel jumped from the chair as if it were a cliff. So Michael, no, the son of Frau Holtzapfel, he killed himself. So many people chased after me in that time, calling my name, asking me to take them with me. Then there was the small percentage who called me casually over and whispered with their tightened voices, "Have me," they said. And there was no stopping them. They were frightened, no question, but they were not afraid of me. It was a fear of messing up and having to face themselves again and facing the world and the likes of you. There was nothing I could do. They had too many ways. They were too resourceful, and when they did it too well, whatever their chosen method, I was in no position to refuse. Michael Holtzapfel knew what he was doing. He killed himself for wanting to live. Of course, I did not see Liesel Memminger at all that day. As is usually the case, I advised myself that I was far too busy to remain on Himmel Street to listen to the screams. It's bad enough when people catch me red-handed, so I made the usual decision to make my exit into the breakfast-colored sun. I did not hear the detonation of an old man's voice when he found the hanging body, nor the sound of running feet and jaw-dropped gasps when other people arrived. I did not hear a skinny man with a mustache mutter, crying shame, damn shame. I did not see Frau Holzapfel laid out flat on Himmel Street, her arms out wide, her screaming face in total despair. No, I didn't discover any of that until I came back a few months later and read something called The Book Thief. It was explained to me that in the end, Michael Holzapfel was worn down not by his damaged hand or any other injury, but by the guilt of living. In the lead up to his death, the girl had realized that he wasn't sleeping, that each night was like poison. I often imagine him lying awake, sweating in sheets of snow, or seeing visions of his brother's severed legs. Liesel wrote that sometimes she almost told him about her own brother, like she did with Max. But there seemed a big difference between a long-distance cough and 2 obliterated legs. How do you console a man who has seen such things? Could you tell him the Fuhrer was proud of him? That the Fuhrer loved him for what he did in Stalingrad? How could you even dare? You can only let him do the talking. The dilemma, of course, is that such people save their most important words for after, when the surrounding humans were unlucky enough to find them. A note, a sentence, even a question or a letter, like on Himmel Street in July 1943. Michael Holzapfel, the last goodbye. Dear Mama, can you ever forgive me? I just couldn't stand it any longer. I'm meeting Robert. I don't care what the Catholics say about it. There must be a place in heaven for those who have been where I have been. You might think I don't love you because of what I've done, but I do. Your Michael. It was Hans Hubermann who was asked to give Frau Holzapfel the news. He stood on her threshold, and she must have seen it on his face. 2 sons in 6 months. The morning sky stood blazing behind him as the wiry woman made her way past. She ran sobbing to the gathering farther up on Himmel Street. She said the name Michael at least 24 times, but Michael had already answered. According to the book thief, Frau Holzapfel hugged the body for nearly an hour. She then returned to the blinding sun of Himmel Street and sat herself down. She could no longer walk. From a distance, people observed such a thing was easier from far away. Hans Hubermann sat with her. He placed his hand on hers as she fell back to the hard ground. He allowed her screams to fill the street. Much later, Hans walked with her with painstaking care through her front gate and into the house, and no matter how many times I try to see it differently, I can't pull it off. When I imagine that scene of the distraught woman and the tall, silver-eyed man, it is still snowing in the kitchen of 31 Himmel Street. The War Maker. There was the smell of a freshly cut coffin. Black dresses, enormous suitcases under the eyes. Liesel stood like the rest on the grass. She read to Frau Holzapfel that same afternoon The Dream Carrier, her neighbor's favorite. It was a busy day all around, really. July 27, 1943. Michael Holzapfel was buried, and the book thief read to the bereaved. The Allies bombed Hamburg, and on that subject, it's lucky I'm somewhat miraculous. No one else could carry close to 45,000 people in such a short amount of time, not in a million human years. The Germans were starting to pay in earnest by then. The Fuhrer's pimply little knees were starting to shake. Still, I'll give him something, that Fuhrer. He certainly had an iron will. There was no slackening off in terms of war-making, nor was there any scaling back on the extermination and punishment of a Jewish plague. While most of the camps were spread throughout Europe, there were some still in existence in Germany itself. In those camps, many people were still made to work and walk. Max Vandenberg was one such Jew. So Max did get captured by the Nazis, good no? And we do know that Max good, he is in a camp good. He is in a slave camp, he is in a work camp. And although the Allies are kind of winning the war, are winning World War II, I'm sorry for the hammering. It's irritating to me too. Although the Allies are winning the war, Hitler didn't give up. Hitler didn't surrender. He's still keeping all the Jews imprisoned and in and enslaved. And Max Good, we do know Max was caught. Liesel kept hoping, no, nga, maybe he's still getting away, maybe he's still surviving. Pero death tells us, yeah, no, one of the Jews caught in the camps was Max Vandenberg. Alright? So sad.